I use the testing push instead of traditional muscle testing to see how the entire system responds to certain changes, whether you're changing your focus of attention or certain activity or particular course of action. For example, if it is changing the course of action, let's say I change the distribution of weight on my feet. And let's test that. When there's a testing push coming my way, I will actually feel immediate difference between the way that I get pushed one time versus the second time. And if one time strong and don't get pushed over easily, and the second time I get pushed over relatively easily, that's a proof positive that something worked better than something else. And it, of course, can also be done through some other physiological functions, and that's something we want to explore today too. So, let's take a look at the testing push. This is something that I explore in a variety of different ways, but in the context of creating greater resilience. First is alignment of the arm or hand in this particular case. It can be arm, for example, if I use elbow. I often actually prefer to use elbow instead of the hand to push with, because when people push with a hand, they often end up using the triceps muscle to exert some effort and maybe some tension also. And that means that they're using force. Like, for example, would you do me a favor and push me with force? Yeah. So that's what using force feels like. Now, would you use power instead of force? Nice. What's the difference between using force versus using power?
You asking me?
Yeah. What do you do?
Well, with power, I let the gravity actually just pull in me. Just that's it. And align my system.
And you lift the foot.
Yes.
All effort that it takes is to lift the front foot up in air, so you start falling forward.
Yeah.
And as long as G-force stays the same and your weight stays more or less the same, you're going to get the same result. That's a beautiful way to also remove the need for using force, meaning you're not relying on your muscular strength. And that's why I often prefer to use elbow. For example, if you push me with an elbow, so like here, for instance, into my hands. Yeah, very good. No way to use muscles, because you just simply cannot really push with elbow. The arms don't telescope, the bones, the arm. So the elbow also comes to the center line naturally. Thank you. What do I mean by that? If I bring the hand to the opposite shoulder joint, not the top of the shoulder, but the joint, it brings the elbow to the center line, more or less. As long as the bones of the upper arm and lower arm are more or less the same length, the elbow is going to be on the center line. Now, that is an excellent way to do the testing push with an elbow. It's on the center line by default, as opposed to the hand that sometimes can go a little bit off to the side or the other side. Elbow is much more reliable and replicable. That's why I said push me into my hands. I put my hands together, and the spot between the webbings of one thumb and the other thumb is where the elbow goes. That doesn't bother me and is just as effective and reliable test push. So this eliminates the subjectivity and unreliability. So what does it give us? Objectivity and reliability. The principle of orientation. I was talking about it in terms of alignment of the tool or the hand with the center line. That is the number one principle. Number two principle is the alignment of the opposite foot. The toes of that foot would need to be on that same center line. In other words, directly beneath the hand or under the elbow. I can glance down and see if the elbow and the toes are pointing in the exact same direction. If they are, great. It means I am stabilized. What does stabilization mean in this case? Alignment of the toes, or if you imagine you're on an ice skate, the blade of metal that you're standing on aligned with the center line of your body. So the center line that divides the body in the right and left halves, or where your navel is pointing. So it's not where your nose is pointing, it's where the navel is pointing, really. And the toes of the weight-bearing foot. By weight-bearing foot, it doesn't mean it has to have 100% of the weight on it. Anything above 50% qualifies this foot to be a weight-bearing foot. If my weight-bearing foot is not in alignment with my center line, I become destabilized. Or if the person who's executing the testing push has this misalignment, they actually are going to have a hard time pushing. But let's not just theorize about it. Let's test it. Would you do me a favor and push me? And I'm going to stand here strong with my toes of the weight-bearing foot pointing directly forward. My navel is pointing forward and you try to push me.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no way you're going to push me over. I'm stable as a rock, right? Now, let's do something funny. I'm going to turn my toes just a few degrees off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just test now. Not so stable. Let's turn it further out to the side and see if that's going to make any difference. It surely does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that one's a fluke. Maybe I'm going to turn the toes in and that's going to make it all better. Hey, that's even worse. Now, let's trade roles. Maybe I'm just faking it. Let's see if you can align the navel with the toes of the front foot. The front foot has just a little bit more than 50% of the weight on it. And let's test how stable you are. Very nice. Now, just to humor me, would you turn the toes just a tiny bit further out? Yeah, kind of like that. And feel this.
Yeah.
You quickly become a pushover.
Yes.
Well, how about turning the toes inwards instead? Maybe that's going to be better. Oh yeah, just like that. And feel this.
Yeah.
It becomes funny. It's like whoever comes up with this idea, right?
Difference, yes.
Yeah. But how often do people misalign the toes of the weight-bearing foot with the center line?
Mm-hmm.
If they have more weight on the leg, they would stabilize themselves. It's actually what we do when we skate or rollerblade. We bring the weight onto the front foot. We align the center line with the foot. Then we step with the other foot and turn the hips and torso to align the center line with the toes of that foot that now becomes the weight-bearing foot. And then again, take another step and take another step, and that becomes an exercise in stabilization. There is a moment of destabilizing yourself where you turn your center line away from the weight-bearing foot. You destabilize yourself to give yourself mobility. You trade stability for mobility for a moment, but then you restabilize yourself. And then again, you trade stability for mobility and restabilize yourself. There's a moment where you're stable, you are on one foot, but then you destabilize yourself and you take the next step at an angle. It's not going to be like you're on skis doing cross-country skiing. Skates and blades don't work that way. But you are going to actually go at an angle. And this realignment gives you a sense of stability, even on a thin blade of metal. When we do the testing push, we lift the front foot up in air for a moment. We destabilize ourselves and we try to fall forward. So again, we trade stability for mobility. And if you observe how often Tai Chi and some other martial artists practice their arts, they often sink into their back foot. That means their center line is pointing forward, but the weight is not on the toes of the foot that's in alignment with the center line. The weight is on the wrong foot, on the back foot. There is an expression, you don't want to be caught on your back foot. If somebody is caught in the back foot, that's not a good position to be caught in. Why? You have no stability if you don't want to be caught in the back foot. Let's pay attention to how you align your center line with the weight-bearing foot. If you need to shift the weight onto the back foot, realign the center line with the toes of that respective foot. Then you become stable. And then you shift the weight onto the other foot, you become stable. This is a secret to stability and variety of different martial arts that often is not taught even to advanced students. And I literally teach it one of the first things in our programs because this is that important. I don't have to keep this till the advanced level of training. I have plenty of other things to explore. This is something that we call the principle of stabilization. I also mentioned the principle of rooting. Now, that's not the same thing. The principle of rooting is about the other foot, non-weight bearing foot. It's the foot that is behind me. The root is the heel. The heel of the back foot is my root. If I want to be able to project energy forward, I need something to support me from behind. That back heel is what provides me that support. A lot of martial artists, boxers, and all kinds of other folks have tendency to lift the back heel up in air when they make cross punches like this. And the funny thing happens. They literally uproot themselves. Why? Because they no longer connect to the ground with the bone structure of their leg. They're relying on the tension of the muscles of the calves, and the muscles are never as strong as bones. How do I know that? I test everything. For example, push me once again. As if you are a boxer, lift the back heel and do the same testing push, but with that heel just a centimeter or two up in the air. As if you are on high heel, go ahead and lift that heel up, and then go ahead and push me. Yeah. You're pushing?
Yeah, I'm pushing.
It doesn't feel like it. So you need to lift the front foot now. And then immediately throws you off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, try the other foot. Maybe this one was just a flick. So,
I lift this up.
yes, so you uproot yourself, and then try to push me. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Nothing. There's no power. And that is because the back heel is up in the air. Now, if you keep that back heel on the ground and push me again. Yeah, now there's no. I can feel it. I can wiggle out of it, relax further, and then you won't be able to push me over. But I can definitely feel the difference. Did you feel the difference?
Yes, immediately.
What's the difference?
You with more ease.
Yes, you can actually project power when the heel is on the ground. That is the principle of rooting. The principle of rooting has another one simple but important detail. And this is about the baseline alignment. What's the baseline? If you draw the line from the toes of the front foot back through its heel and keep going backwards, the question is whether the back heel is on that baseline. If the back heel is on the baseline, it provides you maximum support. The baseline is like the continuation of the center line alignment. If I draw this line and it reaches the toes of the front foot and I just keep going back, this is the same mid-sagittal plane. If my back heel is on that line, it gives me maximum support from behind. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the martial arts, Tai Chi or karate or different other disciplines, they literally tell students to take a wider stance. They somehow think this is going to be more stable. As soon as there is misalignment, in other words, the back heel is not on the baseline. Like I stand, for example, here on tatami mats. The crack between the tatami mats serves as the baseline, and my back heel is not on the baseline. I won't have the same power. I literally move my root from where it needs to be. So if my back heel is on the baseline, I have a lot more support from behind. If the toes of the back foot are on the baseline instead of the heel, again, there's misalignment. Toes don't really matter as much because the heel is the continuation of the bone structure of the leg bones going all the way down to the floor. The toes, it's a zigzag line doesn't mean there's alignment. So we learn how to pay attention to the alignments like this, even to a subtle degree like this. And when I want to be able to project energy forward, I want to pay attention to distribution of weight. I want to pay attention to where my back heel is and not lift it up in air so I don't uproot myself. That's the principle.